Hi, and welcome to Enchantment of Eternity's review for Vikings Season 4, Episode 3, Mercy. This video is a part of a series of videos where I review episodes of Vikings. I don't really look at it from a historical perspective, I'm just a guy watching a narrative-based scripted TV show and telling you what I think about it. So I'll have to give a spoiler warning for up to Episode 3 of Season 4 of Vikings. If you haven't seen up to this point, you may not want to watch this video, otherwise some things may be spoiled for you. So overall, this wasn't the strongest episode. It was one of those link in the chain episodes that need to exist in order to push the story along, but nothing spectacular really happened, and overall I would describe it as a bit slow and it seemed to drag in places. The one thing I noticed that was different about this episode than the previous two of Season 4 is that it touched on every storyline in the show, which made it a bit bloated. We get a bit of Ragnar with Aslog, a bit of Ragnar with Floki, a bit of Kalf and Lagertha, a bit of Kalf scheming with King Horik's son, a bit of Bjorn off on his own, a bit of Rollo in Paris, a bit of other characters in Paris, a bit of Wessex, a bit of Mercia, a bit of everything. And I'm not saying that this is a bad thing necessarily, just noting the difference, and perhaps this contributed to the feeling of this episode being a bit slow. So let me start off as I do with Ragnar. The main thing of note is that his relationship with Aslog appears to be getting more and more strained, and it almost seems like he's just with her out of obligation to the kids, and there doesn't seem to be much love there, as he once again references her being unfaithful to him, so obviously that's weighing on his mind. But honestly, he's a bit of a hypocrite in that regard, but whatever. And of course, the big sign, which I kind of saw coming, is that he freed Floki from his torture. It wasn't made entirely clear in this episode, but I got the impression that he was freeing him entirely, not just stopping the torture, but I could be wrong. I watched another review where someone pointed out that when Ragnar said "you suffered enough," he was probably speaking more towards Floki's wife rather than Floki, because she suffered by having to see her husband in such pain and having to stand there and catch the water. I think that may well be the case, although I also think he may have been speaking to both of them, but who knows. And of course, his sudden change of deciding to do Mercy was brought on by his vision of Athelstan appearing and repeating the word mercy, which I'll get more into a bit. So we also get a scene with Lagertha and Kalf in bed where they seem in love, and Kalf says he wants her to have his babies. Aw, how cute. But then in the very next scene we see Kalf conspiring with King Horik's son to kill Bjorn, who by the way is also Lagertha's son. To me, this makes Kalf a very interesting, very unpredictable character, because you never know what he's thinking. As when we first met him, he conspired to have Lagertha removed as Earl, only to team up with her later on, eventually elevating her back to the status of Earl. Then we saw that he might rescind that, but instead kills all of those who were unhappy with his decision to give Lagertha power back. And now, just when it seems like he's completely on her side, he conspires behind her back yet again to have her own son killed. It's hard to guess his motivations. Maybe he has no respect for Bjorn because he was her child with another man, so it's kind of out of jealousy, or maybe he's devoted to Lagertha but not Ragnar and sees a huge difference there, but who knows. He is an interesting fellow, I'll give him that. So we get a few more Bjorn scenes with him surviving in the wild, and those are fine, I guess. You know, it had a bear fight scene that was kind of disappointing to anyone who's seen The Revenant recently, although I suppose it's unfair to compare a TV show to an award-winning motion picture, but still, I'm entirely sure that those who have seen The Revenant couldn't help but make that comparison because it's still fresh in their minds. But anyway, yeah, these scenes were fine. You know, I kept waiting for the berserker to show up and try to kill him, but I guess they're saving that for later. I thought this was kind of fake that he jumped in a frozen lake and didn't die of hypothermia afterwards, but whatever, you know, he has to find himself and prove how tough he is. That's fine, that's all fine. So we check in with Rollo in Paris, where his wife is treating him like shit. shit and he feels out of place because he can't speak the language, so Count Odo arranges for a teacher to try to teach him the language, and the guy is kind of a dick, although most teachers around that era were probably like that, but he isn't teaching a child, he's teaching a Viking, and he didn't put up with any of that shit and just beat the shit out of him. So the normal movie, TV show cliche now would be for Odo to give him another teacher, and it's a woman who is more kind and gentle and understanding, and Rollo, and that woman end up falling in love. So let's see if they go that way. If they did it, it would obviously be a cliched and unoriginal, easily predictable storyline, so I'm hoping that they won't do that. I suppose the other version of that is that the new teacher is a man and he and Rollo end up becoming good buddies, but we'll see if they go either of those ways. So we go back over to England, where we see King Ecgbert son, whom I believe's name is Athelwulf. Sorry if I pronounced that wrong, sometimes it's hard to get these name rights. Anyway, Athelwulf is returning with Queen Quinthrith. Sorry if I get that name wrong too. Phil the Issues guy just calls her Queen Crazy Pants, which is quite an appropriate name for her. Anyway, we see the two of them returning from Mercia, where they are still in danger until they return back to Wessex, which I thought was pretty cool because I was half expecting them to just gloss over this whole storyline and have the rebellion at Mercia somehow be overthrown instantly, but that wasn't the case, which is cool because it means they still have to deal with the mutineers in Mercia. And we see Aethelwulf with Quinthrith. They form a romance together, which I thought was believable and a natural progression. But of course, while the two of them were away, King Alperic gets it on with Judith. So he's sleeping with his own son's wife. You know, I know this isn't the first time we see them do this, but still, it's kind of despicable. So you feel for Aethelwulf, who's married to a woman that doesn't love him and constantly cheats on him, until this episode reminds you that he cut her freaking ear off for cheating on him, and then he goes and sleeps with someone else, so they're all kind of despicable. I suppose the show is just showing you the pitfalls of the era where they married for political reasons rather than love, and these were the drawbacks to it. A lot of lying, cheating, and scheming, and it's not too unlike modern day politics for that matter. But overall, I think it's pretty interesting, the picture that the show is painting. So now, let me get to the heart of the episode, the appearance of Athelstan. We get two visions happening simultaneously. Athelstan appears to King Alperic to let him know that he's dead, and he appears to Ragnar to tell him to show mercy to Floki. Well, at least that's my interpretation. That's what I get out of it. I know different people can interpret them in different ways, but that's okay. I said in the past I'm not a huge fan when Vikings goes all supernatural, but in the great scheme of things, these scenes weren't too bad. I think it's interesting that Alperic and Judith now know Athelstan is dead, and that Ragnar believes he was told to forgive Floki for killing Athelstan by Athelstan. So I'm wondering if Floki and Ragnar can mend fences. However, at the end of the episode, Floki seems to give Ragnar the look of death, so probably more likely he tries to kill or undermine Ragnar now. But I hope they don't go that route. So my rating for Mercy is a 6 good. This episode was fine. It was fine. It was a bit slow, did very little to push the story forward, but one of those necessary evils in a show like this, so I don't think it was a bad episode by any stretch of the imagination, but it wasn't that great either. So that's it for my review on Mercy. Be sure to check back here every week for a new review on Vikings, and be sure to check out my other videos on Game of Thrones, The Walking Dead, Better Call Saul, House of Cards, and more. And make sure you subscribe so you can keep up with all of that. And thanks a lot for watching.